Have you ever watched someone you love disappear right in front of you and convinced yourself it was normal? My 9-year-old son walked into the kitchen one Tuesday morning looking like a ghost. His skin was pale, his hands were shaking, and when he opened his mouth, the words that came out made my blood run cold. "Mom, can I please stop taking Dad's focus pills? They make my head feel empty." I didn't even know he was taking pills. My husband Cale was a successful architect. Everyone loved him. Charming, brilliant, the kind of man who made you feel safe just by being in the room. For 12 years, I trusted him with everything. Our home, our money, our son. But that morning, when my boy pointed to a little amber bottle on the counter and whispered, "Mom, I can't remember things anymore. Yesterday I forgot my best friend's name," something inside me shattered. See, Orion used to be full of life. We called him Little Lightning because he never stopped moving, never stopped creating, never stopped asking questions. But over 6 months, he'd gotten quieter, slower, empty. And every time I noticed, Cale had an explanation. Growth spurts, school stress, normal development. I believed him because I wanted to. Because questioning your husband feels like betraying your marriage. Because I was drowning in work and guilt, and his explanations let me sleep at night. But standing in that kitchen, watching Cale calmly pour his coffee like nothing was wrong, I finally understood the truth. My son hadn't been growing up, he'd been disappearing, and I'd been making excuses while it happened. By the end of this story, you'll understand why the most dangerous people are the ones you trust completely. You'll learn the 3 warning signs I missed that destroyed my son's future. And you'll discover why staying silent is the cruelest choice you can ever make. Before we continue, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Now let me tell you what happened next. You know what's worse than being lied to? Wanting so badly to believe the lie that you ignore every red flag screaming at you. That evening, I waited until Orion went to bed. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I held up that amber bottle. "Cale, what are these? Why is our son taking pills I don't know about?" He looked up from his laptop and smiled. That same warm smile that made me fall in love with him 12 years ago. "Babe, relax. They're just herbal supplements. You've been buried in your research project for months. You haven't seen how much Orion's been struggling to focus. My colleague told me about these. They're completely natural. They just help him calm down during my work hours." I wanted to believe him so badly. He pulled out his phone and showed me a website, Herbal Focus Solutions. It looked professional. There were testimonials from parents, ingredient names that sounded scientific and safe. My panic started to fade. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was just a guilty mom projecting my anxiety onto nothing. But then I looked at Orion standing next to his father. My son, who used to bounce off walls and ask a million questions. He was just standing there. Completely still. No movement. No curiosity. No spark. Like someone had turned off a switch inside him. Cale kept talking. "Honey, I know you feel guilty about working so much. I get it. But you're letting that guilt make you paranoid. Dr. Chen's son takes the exact same thing. It's normal." Every single word made sense. Every word used my biggest weakness against me. My guilt about choosing my career over being home. My fear of being a bad mother. He knew exactly what to say to make me doubt myself. I almost let it go. Almost. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat at my desk with that bottle under the lamp. I looked at it closely for the first time. No company name. No FDA warning label, no list of ingredients, just a handwritten sticker that said, "Focus, support, 1 daily." Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I took pictures of the pills with my phone. Then I sent a message to Dr. Tamsin, my friend from medical school. "Emergency. Can you test these pills? Something's not right." I stared at my phone for hours. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't think about anything else. At 2 a.m, she finally replied. "Bring them to my clinic first thing tomorrow morning. And Ilara, don't let Orion take another dose. I mean it." My stomach dropped. Dr. Tamsin never talked like that unless something was seriously wrong. I looked over at Cale sleeping peacefully next to me, the man I'd trusted with everything, the father of my child. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt afraid of him. The truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it rips your whole world apart. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I grabbed Orion and those pills and drove straight to Dr. Tamsin's clinic. She told us to come before she even opened. That's when I knew this was bad. Her office felt cold, empty, like something terrible was about to happen. Orion sat next to me, his little hand freezing in mine. Dr. Tamsin looked at us from across her desk. Her face was serious. Too serious. "Elara, these aren't herbal supplements." For 1 second, I felt relief wash over me. Okay, maybe they were just regular vitamins. Maybe the bottle got mislabeled at the pharmacy. Maybe this was all just a big mistake that we could fix. But then she kept talking. "These are sedatives mixed with mood stabilizers. It's a very specific combination. Doctors call it a chemical shutdown drug. It's designed to shut down parts of a child's brain. The parts that control energy, creativity, curiosity, emotions, everything that makes a kid act like a kid." My hands went completely numb. I couldn't feel anything. Some people call it a hush drug. It's illegal. Parents use it to make their kids quiet when they can't get rid of them, but need them to be silent. Completely silent. She looked straight at me. "Elara, this exact mixture is used in the architecture and design world. When professionals have deadlines and can't afford childcare but need total silence to work, they drug their kids with this." My husband was an architect. Based on Orion's symptoms, he's been taking this for about 6 months. That's 6 months during one of the most important times for his brain development. The damage is permanent. His ability to think creatively, to remember things, to feel emotions properly. All of it has been chemically damaged, and it can't be undone. I looked at my son, my beautiful, brilliant boy who used to build entire worlds out of cardboard and tape, who used to ask me why the sky was blue and how birds learn to fly. Now he just sat there, staring at nothing, empty. "Who gave you these pills?" Dr. Tamsin asked quietly. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The answer was right there, choking me. My husband gave them to him. Cale. The man I loved. The man I trusted with our son's life. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't get tricked by some fake website. He knew exactly what these pills were. He used his professional knowledge to poison our child, to shut him up, to make him disappear so he could work in peace. While I was at the university teaching my classes, feeling guilty about not being home, my husband was at home drugging our son into silence. "Elara, you need to call the police. Right now. This is child abuse. This is a crime." But I couldn't move. I just kept staring at Orion, at his empty eyes, at the little boy who would never be the same. My husband stole my son's future to save his career, and I let it happen because I was too busy, too guilty, too trusting to see it. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Every single memory that seemed normal suddenly becomes proof of something horrible. Sitting in that cold clinic room, everything started flooding back. 3 months ago, Orion stopped bringing me his drawings. He used to draw every single day. Robots, spaceships, dragons, you name it. One day I asked him why he stopped, and he said, "Dad told me I need to focus on being quiet instead." I thought he was just growing up, getting more mature. 2 months ago, his teacher called me. She was worried. She said Orion seemed tired all the time, that he wasn't participating in class anymore, that he seemed withdrawn and sad. I told her it was probably just growth spurts. That's what Cale kept saying. Growth spurts. Completely normal for his age. I believed him because I thought that's what good wives do. Trust their husbands, not be the crazy, overprotective mom who panics over nothing. God, I was so stupid. "When did this start exactly?" Dr. Tamsin asked me. I had to think back. 6 months ago, right after Cale lost this big architecture project, the Morrison Building, he was devastated. He said he needed to focus completely on rebuilding his reputation. He stayed home with Orion every day while I went to teach. Dr. Tamsin's face got hard. "He wasn't taking care of your son, Elara. He was erasing him." "But I don't understand why he would—" "Because Orion was in his way. 9-year-old boys are loud. They have energy. They ask questions. They need attention. And all of that got in the way of your husband's work. So he decided his career mattered more than your son's brain. He chose his job over his child's future. I started crying. Really crying. Because suddenly I remembered all the times Cale praised Orion for being so well-behaved, how he'd bragged to his friends about how mature our son had become, how quiet, how easy. "You should see him now," Cale would say at dinner parties. "So calm, so focused. Nothing like those wild kids running around screaming. We're doing something right." He wasn't proud of being a good parent. He was proud that his drugs were working. He was celebrating his experiment. Every time I came home from work and found Orion sleeping on the couch, Cale said he was just tired from playing. Every time Orion seemed confused or couldn't remember something, Cale said, "I was being paranoid." Every single warning sign, he had an explanation for. And I believed every single lie because I loved him, because I trusted him, because I thought partners don't poison their own children. But mine did. And while I was at work feeling guilty about not being home enough, he was at home destroying our son's mind so he could work in silence. How do you ever forgive yourself for that? The worst part wasn't finding out what Cale did. It was realizing how much planning went into it. Dr. Tamsin turned her computer screen toward me. "Elara, this drug doesn't just show up at a pharmacy. You can't accidentally find this. The exact combination, the specific amounts, the timing of doses, all of that requires special knowledge." On her screen were forum posts, secret online groups, architects and designers talking about the miracle fix for working from home with loud kids. They had code names for it, tips on where to buy it, advice on hiding it from wives. Part of me still wanted to make excuses for him. Maybe he was desperate. Maybe he was under so much stress that he made one terrible mistake. Maybe he didn't really understand what he was doing. But Dr. Tamsin kept talking. "Look at this." She pulled out her medical notes on Orion. Month 1, mild sleepiness. More naps than usual. Month 2, he stopped talking as much. Month 3, his creativity completely dropped. He stopped drawing, stopped building things. Month 4, memory problems started. She looked at me hard. "Your husband didn't give him the same amount every day. He changed it. He increased the dose slowly over time, month by month. He was testing different amounts to find the perfect dose. Just enough to shut Orion down completely, but not so much that you'd notice right away and ask questions." My hands started shaking. I couldn't breathe. "This wasn't a mistake, Elara. This was an experiment. He was using your son like a lab rat to find the perfect dose to make him disappear." Dr. Tamsin pulled up more research. "Here's the worst part. These drugs don't just make kids tired, they specifically attack the parts of the brain that control creativity and new thinking, the exact same parts of the brain that architects use for their work." She let that sink in. "Your husband lost his creativity. He couldn't design anymore. He had creative block and it was destroying his career. So he took those exact same creative abilities away from his own 9-year-old son, the son who used to build and create and imagine all day long. He killed that part of Orion's brain to save his own career." I looked at Orion sitting next to me, my beautiful boy who used to make entire cities out of cardboard boxes and tape, who used to draw pages and pages of inventions he wanted to build someday. Now he just stared at his hands with empty eyes, like someone had reached inside him and turned off all the lights. Cale didn't just drug our son, he destroyed the best parts of him, on purpose, carefully, over 6 months. "What happens now?" I whispered. My voice didn't even sound like mine anymore. "Now you call the police, because what your husband did isn't just wrong, it's a crime, and if you don't report it, he'll keep getting away with it." I sat there holding Orion's cold hand, staring at what was left of my child. My husband had stolen his mind to save his job, and I'd been too blind, too trusting, too guilty to see it happening. How was I supposed to come back from that? Some things can't be fixed. Some damage lasts forever. I had to ask, even though I was terrified of the answer. "Will he get better? Can this be fixed?" Dr. Tamsin looked at me with kind eyes, but her words were like knives. "Orion will need therapy. Lots of it. Special brain therapy to help him relearn how to think and remember. It could take years, maybe his whole life. Some parts might get a little better with help. But the damage to his memory? That's probably permanent." I wanted to throw up. "But he'll go back to normal eventually, right? He'll be himself again?" Dr. Tamsin shook her head slowly. "He'll be a version of himself, but not the version he was supposed to be. The Orion who would have grown up without these drugs? The one with all his creativity and curiosity and potential? That child doesn't exist anymore. Your husband didn't just make him sleepy, Ilara. He changed how his brain is built. Forever. The room started spinning. I couldn't breathe right. This is one of the worst types of child abuse I've ever seen, because it takes special knowledge to do it, and it takes a parent who cares more about themselves than their own child. Most people could never do this, but your husband did. I thought about Orion's notebooks. Pages and pages of inventions he wanted to create. A robot that could help old people walk. A machine that cleaned the ocean. A flying bicycle. He used to tell me he wanted to be an inventor when he grew up. He'd spend hours asking me how things worked. Why is water wet? How do planes stay up? Can we build a house on the moon? All of that was gone now. Stolen. Erased. Because Cale needed quiet while he worked. There's something else, Dr. Tamsin said. These drugs aren't sitting on a shelf at the store. You can't just buy them. Your husband had to search for them, research them, find someone to sell them to him illegally. This took planning, weeks of planning, maybe months. This wasn't something he did in a moment of stress. He thought about it, planned it, and chose to do it anyway. My phone was sitting on the desk. I stared at it. Ilara, you have to call the police. What Cale did is a crime. He hurt a child. Your child. And if nobody stops him, what's to say he won't do something like this again? I picked up my phone. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it. But I kept thinking about Orion. About the boy he was supposed to become. The inventor. The dreamer. The kid who never stopped asking questions. Cale had killed that boy to save his career. And now I was sitting here with what was left. How do you ever make peace with that? How do you live knowing you didn't protect your child when he needed you most? I looked at Orion one more time. His empty eyes staring at nothing. And I knew what I had to do. How do you choose between protecting your family and doing what's right? I sat there staring at my phone. My whole body felt frozen, because I knew what calling the police meant. My marriage would end, Cale's career would be destroyed, our whole family would fall apart. Everyone would know. Our friends, our neighbors, my colleagues at work, Orion's school, everyone. Maybe I could just handle this quietly. Get a divorce, take Orion away from Cale. Keep all of this private. Protect Orion from having to go through police reports and investigations and court. Just make it all go away, without the whole world knowing. Dr. Tamsin must have seen what I was thinking. She leaned closer to me. Ilara, let me ask you something. If a complete stranger did this to Orion, if some random person deliberately gave your 9-year-old illegal drugs for 6 months and caused permanent brain damage, would you protect them? Would you let them just walk away? Of course not, I said. Then why would you protect Cale? Just because you married him? Just because he's Orion's father? Just because calling the police would be embarrassing? I didn't have an answer. Your son was poisoned, in his own home, by the one person who was supposed to keep him safe. That's not something you handle privately. That's a crime. And if you don't report it, you're telling Orion that what happened to him doesn't matter as much as keeping his father's reputation clean. Tears started running down my face. I couldn't stop them. I looked at Orion sitting next to me. His face was blank, empty, like nobody was home inside. Sweetheart, do you understand what's happening? I asked him softly. Dad's pills were bad? His voice sounded so flat, so confused. Yes, baby. They hurt you. They were never supposed to help you. Then he said something that broke me completely. Did I do something wrong? Is that why Dad gave them to me? My son thought this was his fault. He thought he'd been bad. He thought his own father poisoned him as punishment for being a normal kid, for being too loud, for existing. That's when I knew. I couldn't let Cale get away with this. I couldn't teach my son that people who hurt you get protected just because you love them. I couldn't let Orion grow up thinking he deserved what happened to him. I picked up my phone. My hands were shaking, but I knew what I had to do. Even if it meant losing everything. Even if it meant our family would never be the same. Even if it destroyed the life I'd built. Because my son deserved justice. And he deserved a mother who chose him over everything else. Even when it hurt. Even when it was terrifying. Even when it meant admitting I'd failed to protect him when he needed me most. I was going to make that call. How do you choose between protecting your family and doing what's right? I sat there staring at my phone. My whole body felt frozen, because I knew what calling the police meant. My marriage would end, Cale's career would be destroyed, our whole family would fall apart. Everyone would know. Our friends, our neighbors, my colleagues at work, Orion's school, everyone. Maybe I could just handle this quietly. Get a divorce, take Orion away from Cale. Keep all of this private. Protect Orion from having to go through police reports and investigations and court. Just make it all go away, without the whole world knowing. Dr. Tamsin must have seen what I was thinking. She leaned closer to me. Alara, let me ask you something. If a complete stranger did this to Orion, if some random person deliberately gave your 9-year-old illegal drugs for 6 months and caused permanent brain damage, would you protect them? Would you let them just walk away? Of course not, I said. Then why would you protect Cale? Just because you married him? Just because he's Orion's father? Just because calling the police would be embarrassing? I didn't have an answer. Your son was poisoned, in his own home, by the one person who was supposed to keep him safe. That's not something you handle privately. That's a crime. And if you don't report it, you're telling Orion that what happened to him doesn't matter as much as keeping his father's reputation clean. Tears started running down my face. I couldn't stop them. I looked at Orion sitting next to me. His face was blank, empty, like nobody was home inside. Sweetheart, do you understand what's happening? I asked him softly. Dad's pills were bad? His voice sounded so flat, so confused. Yes, baby. They hurt you. They were never supposed to help you. Then he said something that broke me completely. Did I do something wrong? Is that why Dad gave them to me? My son thought this was his fault. He thought he'd been bad. He thought his own father poisoned him as punishment for being a normal kid, for being too loud, for existing. That's when I knew. I couldn't let Cale get away with this. I couldn't teach my son that people who hurt you get protected just because you love them. I couldn't let Orion grow up thinking he deserved what happened to him. I picked up my phone. My hands were shaking, but I knew what I had to do. Even if it meant losing everything. Even if it meant our family would never be the same. Even if it destroyed the life I'd built. Because my son deserved justice. And he deserved a mother who chose him over everything else. Even when it hurt. Even when it was terrifying. Even when it meant admitting I'd failed to protect him when he needed me most. I was going to make that call. This is what justice sounds like. A mother's broken voice in a cold clinic room. Dr. Tamsin quietly left to give me privacy. It was just me and Orion now. I held his little hand. It felt so cold. So small. My whole body was shaking. This was it. Once I made this call, there was no going back. I'd be destroying the man I loved for 12 years. I'd be taking away Orion's father. I'd be choosing the hard truth over the comfortable lie. For just 1 second, I thought about not doing it. Maybe I could take Orion home, sit Cale down, give him one chance to explain himself. Maybe he'd cry and apologize and show me he was sorry. Maybe we could fix this as a family somehow. But then I remembered what Dr. Tamsin said. Cale didn't just give Orion the same pills every day. He changed the amount, tested different doses, watched to see what worked best. This wasn't a mistake made in a moment of panic. This was a plan, a long, careful, cruel plan. And if I went home and confronted him, he'd do what he always did. He'd smile that warm smile. He'd use my guilt against me. He'd make me doubt what I knew was true. He'd talk his way out of it just like he'd talked his way out of everything else for 6 months. No, I couldn't let that happen. My son deserved better. He deserved a mom who protected him even when it was scary, even when it hurt. I dialed 911. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, but my voice came out clear. I need to report a crime against a child. The woman on the phone sounded calm, professional. What kind of crime, ma'am? My husband has been drugging our 9-year-old son. Illegal drugs, sedatives. For 6 months. Our son has permanent brain damage now. I have proof, medical records. The pills, a doctor who can testify. What's your husband's name and what does he do for work? I took a deep breath. Cale Hartley. He's an architect. He used his professional connections to get these drugs, and he knew exactly what they would do. Where are you right now, ma'am? I gave her the clinic address. Then our home address, every single detail she asked for, where KL worked, when the drugging started, everything. When I finally hung up, I looked at Orion. His eyes were still empty, still staring at nothing. "You're safe now, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you sooner. I'm so sorry I let him do this to you." Orion didn't say anything. He just sat there. A shell of the boy he used to be, forever changed because his father cared more about silence than his own son's future. And that's when I completely broke down. I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I cried for the boy Orion used to be, for the inventor he'd never become, for all the questions he'd never ask, for all the dreams that died in those pills. I cried because I'd made the call too late, because I should have known sooner, because I'd chosen to believe a liar instead of protecting my child. But at least now, finally, I'd chosen right. Finding out the truth doesn't set you free right away. First, it tears your whole life apart. The police showed up 30 minutes after my call. They took the pills, they took Dr. Tamsin's medical reports, they took my statement. Then they went to our house to arrest KL. He was still at home, still working on his architecture designs at his desk. He had no idea what was coming. I saw the body camera video later during the investigation. The look on his face when the officers walked in, first confused, then angry, then scared. "This is crazy," he kept saying. "Those were herbal supplements." "Call my colleague. He'll tell you. This is all a huge misunderstanding." Watching that video, seeing how shocked he looked, part of me wondered if maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe he really didn't know what those pills were. Maybe someone tricked him too. But then the police searched his computer, and everything became crystal clear. His search history went back 3 months before he ever gave Orion the first pill. How to sedate child without getting caught. Safe doses of sedatives for kids. Can you go to jail for drugging a family member? Drugs architects use to control kids. How to make fake herbal supplement labels. He'd planned this for months, every single detail. He even made those fake labels himself to fool me. This wasn't a desperate dad making a terrible mistake. This was a calculated plan to poison our son. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of lawyers and court dates and testimony. Kale's lawyers said he was just an overwhelmed father trying to help his son focus better. That he thought the supplements were safe. That he never meant to hurt anyone. But the prosecution had Dr. Tamsin. They had proof of where Kale got the drugs from a shady colleague he worked with on that failed Morrison project. They showed how he kept increasing the dose month by month, watching Orion's symptoms and adjusting. They proved the brain damage was permanent. The jury found him guilty. Child endangerment. Giving illegal drugs to a minor. Assault that caused serious harm. 3 years in prison. Maybe only 18 months if he behaved well. But what about Orion? His sentence was life. Life with a damaged brain. Life without the creativity he was born with. Life struggling to remember things that should be easy. All because his father needed quiet to work. Kale would serve his time and walk free. But Orion would never be free from what his father did to him. He'd carry it forever in every thought he struggled to form. Every memory he couldn't hold on to. Every dream he couldn't create. That's not justice. That's just the best we could do in a world where you can't undo the damage already done. Healing doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. It means learning to carry what can't be fixed and finding strength you never knew you had. 2 years have passed since that clinic room. 2 years of therapy twice a week. Memory exercises every morning. Creative play every afternoon. Progress so slow you could barely see it happening. But it was happening. Last month, Orion picked up a pencil without me asking. He drew a picture. A simple house. A crooked tree. A sun with a smile, the first thing he'd created on his own in 2 years. I went to my room and cried until I couldn't breathe, because that simple drawing meant my son was still in there somewhere, fighting his way back. Some days I trick myself into believing he'll be completely normal again, that the doctors were too negative, that enough love and therapy can undo what Kale destroyed. But then reality reminds me. Orion forgets conversations we had an hour ago. He stares at the Lego cities he built when he was 7 and can't figure out how to recreate them. He looks at me with confused eyes and asks, "Mom, why is it so hard for me to think now?" Those moments break me all over again. Because I should have saved him sooner. I should have listened to my gut instead of believing Kale's lies. I left the university. Now I travel to hospitals teaching doctors how to recognize when parents are drugging their children. I've met 23 other parents whose partners did the exact same thing, used sedatives to control their kids, treated them like problems to solve instead of children to protect. I'm working with lawmakers to create mandatory reporting systems, trying to build the safety net that didn't exist for Orion. I couldn't save my son from what happened, but I can save other children from going through it. Orion still asks about Kale. Why did Dad hurt me? I always tell him the truth. Because he cared more about his job than your life. He made a choice. A terrible, selfish, unforgivable choice. But that choice was never about you being bad or wrong. That was about him being broken in a way you'll never understand. Does he ever say sorry? Last month, a letter came from the prison. Kale's handwriting on the envelope. I threw it in the trash without opening it. Because Orion doesn't need more words from the man who destroyed him. He needs peace. He tried. I tell Orion. But sorry doesn't fix what he broke. And you deserve better than empty words from someone who proved words don't mean anything. Orion nods. He's 11 now. He carries knowledge no child should have to carry. But he's carrying it anyway. Then yesterday, everything changed. Orion came to me after therapy. Mom, I want to make something. We sat down together. He thought for a long time. Really concentrated. Then he started drawing. A robot. Simple. Basic. Nothing like the complex machines he used to dream up before the drugs. But this robot was different. It's a memory helper robot, he explained slowly. For kids like me who forget stuff. It reminds them of important things. Like their mom loves them. And that being different doesn't mean being broken. I started crying right there. Not sad tears this time. Something else. Something that felt like hope, mixed with pride, mixed with grief for what we lost, but gratitude for what survived. That's beautiful, baby, I whispered. He looked up at me with those eyes that used to be so empty. But now there was something there. A light. Small but real. Mom, I know I'm not the same as before. I know my brain doesn't work like other kids. But maybe that's okay. Maybe I can help other kids who feel different too. Kids who think something's wrong with them. I can show them you can still be someone even when bad things happen to you. And right then, I understood something I'd been too heartbroken to see. Orion would never be the child he was supposed to be. The inventor, the dreamer, the boy with a million questions and unlimited imagination. Kale stole that future forever. But Orion was becoming something else. Something stronger. A survivor. A kid who looked at his broken pieces and decided to build something new with them. He may never design flying bicycles or ocean cleaning machines, but he might save another kid's life just by showing them it's possible to keep going after someone breaks you. Last week, another child started at Orion's therapy group, a 6-year-old girl whose father had done the same thing Kale did, given her sedatives for months, damaged her brain. She wouldn't talk, wouldn't look at anyone, just sat there staring at the floor. Orion walked over and sat next to her. I know you're scared, he said quietly. I was scared too. My dad hurt my brain with pills. But I'm getting better, slow but better. And you will too. I promise. You're not alone. The little girl looked up at him, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she smiled. Just a tiny smile. But it was there. That's when I knew. We lost so much. But we're building something from the ruins, not just for us. For everyone who comes after us. Kale got 18 months in prison. He's out now, living in another state. I heard he's working as a consultant, rebuilt his career somehow, started over like nothing happened. But Orion's sentence continues every single day. Every forgotten conversation, every struggle to learn something new. Every moment he realizes he's different from other kids and asks why. That's the part nobody talks about. The criminal serves their time and walks free. But the victim carries the damage forever. So here's what I need you to understand. The monsters don't always look like monsters. They look like devoted fathers, loving husbands, successful professionals. They kiss you goodnight and poison you at breakfast. They smile while they destroy you. And the warning signs? They're so easy to miss when you love someone. When you trust them. When they know exactly which of your weaknesses to exploit. That's why I'm telling you this story. Not for sympathy. Not for attention, but because right now, Somewhere, another parent is noticing their child getting quieter, more tired, more distant. And they're choosing to believe the explanation instead of trusting their instincts. Don't be me. Don't wait until the damage is permanent. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Your gut is trying to protect your child. Listen to it. Because the cost of ignoring it is a price no child should ever have to pay. Now, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. If you discovered your partner was secretly drugging your child, but they were apologetic and promised to get help, would you call the police like I did? Or would you try to handle it privately to avoid destroying your family? And more importantly, what message does each choice send to your child about their worth? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't hold back, because your perspective might be exactly what another parent needs to hear to make the right choice. And if this story made you see trust and betrayal differently, share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear that their instincts matter, that protecting their child is never an overreaction. Hit subscribe so you never miss a story that exposes the truth others try to hide. Because next week, I'm revealing the 5 phrases manipulative partners use to make you doubt reality and the one sentence that stops them cold. Remember this: your child's safety is more important than keeping your family looking perfect. Always. Even when the truth destroys everything you built, especially then.